Smashing. So my name is Maria and I am your co-host today, along with Richard Shepherd, the founder of UTSS, otherwise known as Utility Transmission Survey Solutions. UTSS is a surveying company. We look at underground utilities to overhead assets, delivering high accuracy survey data that keeps projects safe, compliant, and on track. And today we are going to be talking about HSG47 and GS6 and what they really mean, what happens when it goes wrong. And we've got some slightly scary videos to show you. So just a little warning in advance of that, and potentially some explicit language, how to avoid those issues, how we can help. And then we're going to open it up to questions at the end. But if anyone does have any questions as we go along, feel free to shout out or raise your hand, and we'll be really happy to answer those questions as well. So without further ado, Rich, would you be so kind as to just give a brief introduction as to who you are and tell us what it's all about, HSG47 and GS6. What does it mean?
All right, thanks, Maria. So yeah, I'm Rich Shepherd, the Managing Director of Utility and Transmission Survey Solutions. And obviously, one of the things we are is massively passionate about surveying and different forms of it, including what we're talking about today, which is HSG47, avoiding danger from underground utilities, as well as GS6, which is avoiding danger from overhead power lines. And obviously these are health and safety guidance notes for keeping guys safe, or keeping anybody safe that's going to be digging around utilities or working in the vicinity of overhead lines. Again, I say it's guidance notes, but remember, if anything goes wrong, guidance notes get pulled out and said, did you abide by the guidance notes? No, we didn't. Then you just obviously created your own lawsuit from that point on. So what is HSG47? What's it all about? It's a document that's been out now by the health and safety guys for a long time. It's a 40-page document. And people kind of go, 40 pages, oh no, that's going to be really boring. Not more health and safety talk, not more stuff that we've got to learn. It's talks about lots and lots of different elements within it, but the main thing is that obviously that we've got to look at is making sure that you plan your work beforehand, making sure you're using proper cable avoidance tools, your site's getting marked up properly, and you're using safe dig around utilities or need utilities. And obviously there's a whole process around that and how we do that, and obviously keep everybody safe. GS6, very similar, is all about keeping you safe around overhead power lines. It's something that gets forgotten about all the time. We've been and done site investigations following deaths for different DNOs where we've actually mapped and undertaken surveys to show the full sag and swing, to making sure that the DNOs are compliant. And obviously, unfortunately, somebody's obviously passed away, and we're there to obviously give expert witness and expert information back, obviously, to the courts, etc., that are looking at why this person obviously got in contact with an overhead line. So overhead lines quite often get forgot about, and they're not very forgiving. So obviously it's about not getting too close to it and understanding through GS6 exactly what you need to do. Obviously you need to separate yourselves, ensure that a full sag and swing survey has been undertaken, and the fact that you're maintaining that safe distance away from overhead lines. And that's just like a quick introduction to HSG47 and GS6.
Lovely. Thanks, Rich. So HSG47 is the regulation in relation to underground surveys, yeah. And GS6 is sort of the equivalent, but for overhead lines.
It is, yeah.
Lovely. Smashing. Okay, so now we're going to have a little look at what happens when it goes wrong, because this is probably the easiest way to demonstrate and then talk about the actual safety requirements there. So if I go to here and click this link, hopefully we'll get a little video come up. Can you see that, Rich?
Yep, it's come up.
Lovely. Okay, so that's video 1. Rich, I presume this is not compliant with GS6. Can you just talk us through what's actually going on there?
So as you can see, the guys have moved the scaffold. They haven't done the lookup. They haven't planned the work properly. The scaffold's come into contact with an overhead power line. As you can see, all 4 of them kind of fall down. All 3 of them fall down. They've all been electrocuted, and thankfully on that occasion, all of them have survived. And they've kind of going to get up and fight another day, as it were. But that's when obviously things go wrong, and it's just not planning, just not looking up, and just not being aware of situations where obviously you've got overhead power lines. And that just might have been a small service that's coming into a building and an overhead supply. So nothing that anybody would kind of think twice about, but that just shows you the dangers that are around.
Lovely. Thank you, Rich. Okay, let's have a look at the second video. Okay, even more disturbing than the first one. Rich, over to you. What's going on there, and how can we avoid it?
So not only did he hit it first time, he hit it second time and the third time, just to make sure he was going to wipe the overhead line out. We've been called to these many a times where people haven't erected the correct goalposts for traversing underneath overhead lines when you've got large plank crossings. That's one of the main things, obviously, that GS6 talks about, is when you've got a plank crossing, you put marker posts up. You ensure that if you are doing that, you've got banksmen in the vicinity of it, making sure that the like tipper drivers like that have obviously reduced their load, and so they've got good access and egress underneath the overhead lines. The guy did everything completely wrong. The whole site was completely wrong, as you could see, and that's why we've ended up with a situation. You've got a guy that's walked away from that, some damage to the vehicle, but that could have been a hell of a lot worse. You know, you're looking at a very extreme high voltage there, where, you know, it could have quite easily killed somebody.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Rich. Do you reckon it was the tyres that saved him then on that occasion?
Yes, probably. Probably.
Okay. I'm just going to click on the third video. Let's have a look at this one. Crikey. I am just going to say as well, we've picked these videos out, but nobody has been seriously harmed, believe it or not. I'm not quite sure how, but just for reassurance, these are all these stories all have a happy ending. Rich, can you talk us through that one there? Thank you.
Yeah, I don't happy ending mean I won't have to go to the barbers for a while. You've got no hair after that one. So yeah, just highlights obviously when HSG47 isn't compliant, and you've got a guy that's hit a high voltage cable. It's not always an electric shock that's going to kill you when you start hitting high voltage cables, etc. You're going to get an arc flash, massive fireball, and you can walk away without electrocution but severely burned. So that's when obviously it hasn't been planned properly. You're using equipment near underground utilities that you shouldn't be using, exposing the utilities prior to obviously bringing out the great big whackers, jigger picks, whatever you want to call them, to obviously break the ground around them. You know, it should be hand tools only at that particular point.
Yeah. Okay, and that's what he should have been doing there, really, in order, well, and of course, teamed with better planning to avoid
Absolutely.
any such incidents. Okay, I'm glad we've only got 3 more because I don't think my nerves could stand too many more of these, but let's take a look at the next one.
No. Fucking Jesus.
Surely a bit of PTFT tape will sort that out.
Absolutely.
Oh dear. Right, okay, there we go. Video for it. What's gone wrong this time?
So within that one, you you can hear the guy turning around and saying there's no tape on it, and quite often we've been called to accidents to do investigations, and they've gone, but it's not taped, it's below, it's only like 200 cover, doesn't matter. HSG47 talks about don't assume that you've got a 500 clearance or you've got a 600 depth to the service, to the utility. Don't assume that it should be taped. We all know that records and plans can be poorly undertaken at the time of installation, or there could be poor installation. So the digger shouldn't have been used. There should have been hand dig around it. It should have been identified prior to the digger going in. It just shows that, you know, HSG47 is there for a reason, and that's how you do it wrong.
Yeah, quite. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Video 5. Yeah, okay. So another terrifying one, but we see the guys got out of the digger relatively unscathed. But what's happening this time, Rich?
So luckily the guys jumped well clear of the vehicle, and not trying to step down and then create a step potential, and obviously then creating a ground for himself, and ended up being electrocuted. So this is where GS6 has obviously gone wrong. There's no banksman, there's no demarcated area as to obviously designated plank crossings, etc. He's gone through jib fully extended, hit an overhead line, and as you can see, obviously they're the consequences of obviously doing that and not even knowing that there's an overhead line in the presence of the work site. Yeah, he's lucky that he managed to jump clear and didn't get hurt, although obviously the vehicle's been damaged.
Yeah. Okay, right. Well, last but by no means least, let's take a look at this one. Crikey. Rich, talk us through it.
So yeah, it's just a contract farmer putting in posts, merry along the way, building a new fence, no problem at all, until he hits a gas main, and obviously that's the consequences of hitting the gas main. But luckily, obviously, it wasn't ignited. The guy gets blown to one side, scrapes, few injuries, but walks away. If that had gone into an absolute fireball, he probably wouldn't have walked away from it. And that's how simple it is. Just a contractor putting in a fence, hits a high pressure gas main that's running along the fence line, and next thing you know, you're in hospital. Just shows obviously the importance of doing planning, utility searches prior to even putting your fence posts in.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Rich. And I mean, I think that's pretty, you know, I thought the videos that you were going to be showing us were all of people doomed to taking really complex tasks. But the truth is, this is actually, like you say, that's a simple fence. Someone had a little mini digger down the side of the house. And unfortunately, when it goes wrong, it looks just as ugly.
Absolutely. I think sorry,
Go on.
Maria, I think that's one of the things that we wanted to try and bring to today's webinar is that you know, you don't have to be doing a massive excavation in the streets. You don't have to be doing a huge construction site. These things kind of apply to lots of different scenarios. So yeah, like you say, it's not always about these big construction jobs where you become needing these kind of issues or coming up with these kind of issues.
Yeah, no, quite. And I think what's really stood out for me is it also doesn't affect the impact. So it might be a simple job, but the impact is just as great, unfortunately, when it goes wrong. Okay, so on a slightly lighter note then, can you tell us a little bit more about how we can avoid such issues, Rich?
yeah, because nobody's coming here wanting to do them kind of things. So, like I was saying before, HSG47 is all about avoiding dangers of underground utilities, and it's a document that says it's been around a long time. There's nothing new within it, but the amount of people that are getting hurt is growing exponentially. We're looking at 60,000 strikes per year, and that's looking into financial costs of 2.4 billion, and probably 12 fatalities a year. That's just associated to people digging and obviously striking utilities. So they're astronomical figures, and they're only getting worse year on year. Hence the reason why we just wanted to do this webinar and just bring some thought around the whole thing. So how do we make sure that we get it right? Well, first of all, we plan to what are we intending to do. We do a desktop utility survey. So you've got people like line search before you dig. There's companies out there that will do that for you. They'll send you all the utility plans for in the area. We've then got we get to site, we can have a look around, we can see all the utilities, we've got scars in the pavement, we've got lots of sites within the, you know, lots of giveaways within the site that we're actually looking at. So you've got a stopcock, you've got a scar, you've got a meter box, all them kind of things are obviously pointing to the fact that we've got electric, we've got gas, we've got potentially water within there. We've already got the utility plans. We can have a look at it, see where they potentially are running. Then we've got cable avoidance tools that we can use, and we can map the area using a cable avoidance tool, not just swinging the cable avoidance tool around, but you're obviously using the tool properly, making sure you're trained, you're getting your 2-3 year training on the actual apparatus that you're using, and using the cat and jenny as it's supposed to be, not just in cat mode, as it were, but making sure you're putting a signal and these kind of things as well. And it'll give you more idea of what's there. And then obviously the last one that we can use within that for finding is a GPR unit. Get a GPR unit out, it'll find obviously all your PVCs, all your non-conductive based utilities, especially now that we've got lots of fibre in the ground as well. Obviously we don't want to be hitting them because the repair costs on them are absolutely astronomical. And then once we've identified them, we've marked the ground up. We use safe dig in and around them as we are exposing. Obviously we've got, if we've used the cat and jenny as it's supposed to be, and we've used GPR, we've got some kind of depth, we've got some kind of knowledge of what the utility depths are. We can then maybe scrape the top layer off with mechanical means, and then move back down to hand dig, and obviously use correct hand dig methodology where we're exposing the services, getting around the services before we start obviously then using any other mechanical needs or mechanical help to obviously excavate. They're the kind of simple things that we can do, which is then going to avoid obviously some of the stuff that we've done there. And we kind of talk about a lot of them of like past 128 compliant surveys, which obviously talks about in the past 128 talks about different ways of doing. You've got the DCBA kind of surveys within that, which we can talk about a little bit more in a minute. And we can also, for harder congested areas, we can use things like vacuum excavation. So we're not even breaking ground with an excavator, but we're using suction method to remove obviously the spoil around, so as we can actually find them without causing any issues. And then for the GS6 element of it, again, identify at planning stage that there's an overhead line there. What do we need to do? Well, we can measure the distances properly. There's many tools out on the market. One's classed as a super rule that uses a sonic device, sends up a signal, gives you an idea of obviously where it's at. You can set clear zones. So obviously you put demarcated areas not to enter. And you can also engage people like ourselves where we do sag and swing surveys, so as we can then turn around to you and say, at the maximum load, maximum wind speed on these particular days, this is the area to avoid, and that'll give you your safety margins as well. And when we talk about safety margins and everything, it's not just something that we've made up. There's Electrical Networks Association's technical specifications that obviously we adhere to, which is a document called 43.8, and within that obviously states all distances, and GS6 relates back to that document as well. So they're all the good things that we can do, and obviously by doing all them things, it makes people safe and means that you can work around utilities, you can work around overhead lines, and not worry about obviously the consequences that we've just seen in them videos.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Rich. And we will be sharing a checklist as well to follow up from today as to how you can all ensure that you do stay compliant with both of these regulations. So just to sort of finalise on the previous slide, Rich, if everybody adheres to the checklist that they're going to get as a result of the webinar, and they're still a little unsure, or they think they need some additional support, can you just whiz us through how UTSS can actually help in these scenarios?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're talking about like PAS 128 utility surveys, and what is a PAS 128 utility survey. So we start off with a desktop utility search, and we do a site reconnaissance, which was talking about looking at obviously what's there, what's around us, scars in the pavement, etc., etc. Then we use a detection method, which is a non-intrusive element, and then you've got verification where you do slip trenching to actually identify these utilities that you found. You know exactly where they are, you know where they're running. Obviously it keeps everyone safe. So UTSS as a business, these are the kind of things that we do for underground utilities. Overhead lines, we do full sag and swing surveys, so we ensure that under maximum load, maximum wind speed, etc., for an overhead line, that you are staying compliant within GS6 and your workforce are not entering within 3.6 meters currently to say a 132 overhead line at its maximum swing, at its maximum sag. And they're the kind of things obviously that we offer, but the broader thing is obviously making sure that everybody stays compliant within these as well. If you've got your own guys that have got Cat and Jennies, make sure that the training is done every 2/3 years. Use a verified trainer, CITB trainers, and make sure that they're trained on the Cat and Jennies that you're using. If it's a Cat 4 radio detection one, make sure that the trainers have got that. If it's a Vivax, some of the new Vivax ones are absolutely amazing. Full GNSS systems into them, RTK solutions, so as it can actually map as you're scanning. Make sure that they're getting trained on them properly, so you're not getting trained on something and then picking something else up and you haven't got a clue how to use it when you get on site. And they're the kind of things that we can help with as well.
Lovely. Thanks, Rich. Really appreciate it. Okay, so we're moving towards the end of the talking part of the webinar. I'm going to start opening up for questions, but before we do, I wondered if you would all be so kind as to give us a little feedback, because we know that feedback is the breakfast of champions, and in our constant pursuit of doing better than before, we're always eager to receive your feedback. So if you could all please kindly scan the QR code, would really help us, and also help get your view on what topics you might like to hear about next, as we continue our series of webinars. So please do scan the QR code. It'll take you about 90 seconds and just fill in those questions for us, please.
We might get none, please don't do another one.
I don't think I put that as an option. You'll have to put that in the comments if you don't want any more. But yeah, if there's a topic that you'd like to hear about that's not in the boxes, feel free to add that as a comment as well, because it'll help us to help you and any future audiences. So really appreciate that. I'll ping this around afterwards as well if anyone's not had the chance to screen grab it or to get that. And then we'll move on to questions. So I do have some here as well from a few people that were unable to attend, but I'll open it up to the room first. Does anybody have any questions that they would like to ask Rich?
Go on, Tim. Diana.
Thanks for that. As a sort of business owner, I was interested in the scenario, the very first video we saw where the guys had the scaffolding up and went into the overhead cable. So if I owned that factory or whatever that site was, and I get these guys in to do that work, is it my responsibility? Do I have any responsibility to check that they have got the correct training and skills? Or so if that accident happens, is there any comeback on me as the business owner where the site they're working on?
Only in so much as you would point it out to them to turn around and say, I need this work doing, but please remember I've got an overhead power line that kind of comes into my building, and you must be aware of that. Then their safety methodology should then take that into account, and it should be within their risk assessments to say within our work site we have got this overhead line that's coming into it. This is our control measures that we're intending to use to ensure that obviously we're not going to come into contact with it, us or our equipment. But I think the only element that you would obviously have to turn around and say is be aware of this, and it's down to them to then manage that risk once they are aware of it.
Okay, thank you.
Who else has a question for Rich?
Go on, Tim, you're a Virbax user.
Well, I don't really have a question because everything that you've covered there is absolutely on point. I mean, you have to put these safety measures in place in order to protect your people. Now, in my line of work, when we identify a drainage problem on people's properties, we do go in and dig up to replace that said bit of drainage. And you can put in as many preventative measures as you possibly can. Sometimes it's just down to the individual. I mean, I've had that same statement you made where a lad on a machine has started excavating to expose a pipe and gone through an electric cable. Why? He didn't take the cat over it first. Because he was rushing. His response to me was, well, it's at 300 mil depth, it should be 700 or so on and so forth.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, well, I don't care because you haven't checked. Regardless, that's now cost us to fix that problem. Another contractor's come in to fix that line. And you've just got to be on the ball with your people, because what lies beneath, you don't know unless you check.
Absolutely.
And it's really dangerous.
And you'll know most Cat and Jennies now have a GNSS or GPS, not so much a GNSS, but a GPS unit into them, and they log whereabouts they're being used, when they're being used, so they get date stamped. So when you get a utility strike, somebody might get hurt, the HSE will come in and turn around and say, right, we're taking that, we want the data logs from that. Oh yeah, the Cat and Jenny was never used. There's no data logs in it. You've not even, as an individual that's got a responsibility to ensure that obviously your actions or omissions do not obviously cause harm to yourself or others. You've got no comeback at that point to say, well, actually, we did use the cat, because you can't because it's quite clear, and the data log isn't going to lie.
And what Diana was saying there, we use subcontractors sometimes to carry out some of our tasks if we've got quite a lot on. And the first thing is, let's have a look at your health and safety processes. How do you plan for your tasks? You know, this is the task that we need to carry out. Can I have a look at how at your processes and how do you do things? And at that point there, it's nipped in the bud. You know, right, okay, I've seen the way you go about your business. I'd like you to focus on this for this particular task, because otherwise you could open yourself up to this. Yeah, it's a minefield. It is, but this webinar is absolutely fantastic. It's hit the nail on the head perfectly.
Cheers, Tim. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Do we have any more questions from the people in the room? Oh, Shah.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, Shah is my family name. My first name is Pune, sorry.
Oh, apologies, Poonam. Thank you.
No worries, that's okay. Thanks for the nice hosting and also nice webinar. Really appreciate that. I was just wondering, Richard, can you please just very briefly tell us about the non-intrusive methods that how utilities under the ground can be investigated? Just very brief.
Yeah, so there's a couple of techniques that we use. We use Cat and Jenny using electromagnetic, obviously, detection process, which is obviously a cable avoidance tool, or we use ground penetration radar. So obviously there's quite a few different manufacturers that make them, whether it's going to be Marla, Leica, there's, let's say, a few others, most of them just skip my mind, but they're the kind of non-intrusive kind of elements that we use. With a Cat and Jenny, obviously you can get an audible signal when you've obviously got a return. With a GPR on a B scan, it'll show you a hyperbola to show you that you've got something in the ground, and obviously from the dielectric value of that on the B scan, you can then determine whether that's going to be a hollow pipe, which could be gas, water, or whether it's going to be a nice shiny kind of reflectance from it, which could be something like an unenergized electric cable, for instance. So they're the non-intrusive kind of elements that we use, and then we would always say from that point that we've created the non-intrusive based map for them is to then use intrusive technology, intrusive workflow, which is going to be actually digging it up with slip trenching, using general kind of hand tools and no power tools to actually expose the underground utilities.
Thank you.
Nice. You mentioned vacuums as well, Richard.
So we see them more and more now, especially in large cities where they bring in massive vacuum units. So it's like a road sweeper on steroids. They're huge, great big units, and they do exactly what they got. On some of them, they've got an end that kind of turns on the hose, which cuts through slightly and just sucks everything up as it goes along. So you haven't got the obviously the pounding away of a shovel or a pick, or obviously your bucket on a digger and them kind of things, and it just sucks all the debris, all the spoil from around the utility, and obviously doesn't cause any damage. But they can be slow depending on the soil type, and they can be very expensive as well. And for highly congested areas, some of the areas that we've been and seen to, like the middle of Birmingham, etc., you know, they're a godsend.
Lovely, thank you. Any more questions from anyone on the call? No? Well, if you think of one, please do raise your hand. Rich, I've just got 2 questions here from people that were unable to make it but sent ahead their questions. What if the utility drawings we've got aren't accurate?
Yeah, majority of the time they're not accurate, to be fair. There's a national program that's trying to get all utility suppliers signed up to it, and there's supposed to be a free service where anybody that's going to break ground can then start using, and it's down to all the utility suppliers to supply this information. The information's got to be verified. So there's this whole kind of data cleansing process that's going on in the background. I think it started early 2020, and it's got a completion date towards the end of the year, end of 2029. I think it was 2027 that they were open to go, but I think it's been put back. Anyway, So regarding plans, etc., that is one of the things that's been done in the background. But if your plans aren't correct, that's when you've got non-intrusive kind of technology to use. You've got Cat and Jenny's. You've got precision locators within the Cat and Jenny field. Vivax do one, Leica do one, and then you've also got GPR-based surveys, and you'd mark all the ground for where you found all your utilities, and then use safe hand dig around that. Hope that answers that one.
Yeah, lovely. No, thank you. Smashing. And somebody else asked, do I really need to get a utility survey? Do I really need to get a utility survey done? Did you get that? Sorry, Rich.
No, sorry, say again.
Do I really need to get a utility survey done on every job is the question.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because it only takes that one job that you haven't done and you've just struck a gas pipe, a water main, electricity cable. You don't, we can't see what's in the ground or what's not in the ground. Every single job, first thing, plan, get your utility searches done, get somebody out on site that knows how to use a Cat and Jenny, that's trained to use a Cat and Jenny, and if needs be, get a GPR survey done, and then hand digging techniques around the utils. So yeah, absolutely, every single time.
Okay, lovely. Thank you.
Andrew's got a question, I think.
Andrew, you're on mute if you're trying to share it with us.
I am on mute. Yeah, so when you're digging for or digging in the ground, how do you find plastic pipes?
Yeah, good question. So plastic pipe has obviously got no conductive element into it. People say, oh yeah, gas pipes have got a cathode element in and you can pick them up. Well, they haven't, and there's always been talk about it and they've never done it. So GPR, ground penetration radar, is the ones that will find your plastic PVC based water mains, gas pipes, and like I was saying earlier on, fiber now, because obviously fiber's got no trace element into it. So all of them, sometimes we can detect them, but we don't always know what they are. We can mark it up to say, if there's nothing on the plans, we can mark it up to say there's an unknown utility in this area, hand dig around it until you've exposed it.
Not yet.
Nice, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew.
Okay, so final one that we had in, sent in, Richard. What if we don't have proper barriers for overhead lines?
Then we don't do it. It's simple as that, isn't it? It's one of them. If we can't create a fully demarcated zone and to stop people actually accessing where the overhead line is, especially if you don't know your full sag and swing model of it, obviously the safest thing to put in is distance to you and that overhead line, and to be able to do that is to create a physical barrier to stop obviously anybody egressing into the unknown kind of danger zone. So if you haven't got barriers, don't do it. Get somebody in, get it barriered off, put it on your risk assessment, put the methodology around that we don't go past them particular barriers, and obviously everyone there stays safe.
Lovely, thank you. Well, I'm sure the person that sent that question and will watch the recording back, and when they've seen those videos, they might not have had the question anymore.
Absolutely not.
I think they definitely answered it for me. Okay, wonderful. Before we wrap up, does anybody else have any other questions or anything that they'd like to say or ask? No? Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for your time and attention. I hope you found it useful. Really appreciate your feedback as ever. So I'm just going to pop that QR code up as we log off. Yeah, thank you very much again from myself and Richard. We will send round the checklist to everyone that's kindly attended. And if you do have any follow-up questions thereafter, please feel please feel free to reach out to myself or Richard, and we'll be delighted to follow up with you. So thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll hopefully speak again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you very much.
No problem at all. Thank you for popping on.
Yeah, thank you.
Well done. That went well.
You think
That was
so?
very good.
Good. I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah, very good.
Oh, it's
Got some
nerve-wracking,
good
isn't
photos of you in action.
it? Oh, good. Yeah, it's certainly nerve-wracking. Not something I've done before, but yeah, hopefully one of many.
Yeah, no, it was good. Yeah, hopefully another one soon. I think it went down well. You came across as very knowledgeable, so that's good. That's what you want.
That's always a bonus, isn't it? Who's the fool in the corner? Oh, that's Shepherd.
No, it was good though. Yeah, well done.
Thank you very much. That's
I'm
great.
just finalising the content planner, so I'll have that over with you this afternoon.
Oh, great. No, that's cool. No, good stuff. And hopefully we can drop some bits and pieces on from the webinars on over the next month or so.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I'm going to catch up with Maria, and hopefully we can get some more in the diary as well.
Perfect. Sounds good.
Great.
Right. Well, I'll
Cheers,
speak
mate.
to you
See you soon.
later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.